Would you let your child be touched by a stranger? Would you expose your child to porn? No? Well, that is exactly what is happening all too often at what used to be a classic childhood activity, sleepovers. They're more toxic than good. I, along with many other people, have many great memories of sleepovers. A time with my friends and cousins. We would stay up late, giggle the night away, watch movies, eat junk food. They were really the best of times. I even had a toothbrush at one of my friends' house because I spent the night too often. On the other hand, I remember a sleepover where for whatever reason someone instigated taking a pair of rolled up socks, sticking it down our pants, and then rubbing up against the couch. I told my mom about this and also some of the jokes that were told. She then told this girl's mom, and I can still remember this girl cornering me at church and how awful I felt when she asked me why I told my mom. I also pretended to be asleep when youth close to my age, both related and not related to me, touched me inappropriately at a sleepover. These events happen at homes of very active LDS people, homes with priesthood leaders, homes where my parents trusted these parents. These are my experiences. I've heard dozens of others that mirror mine, and even more that are even more horrific. I these stories bring up red flags and concerns with this age-old tradition. I'm sure there's people out there still shaking their head and thinking to themselves, this never happened to me. This wouldn't happen at my friend's house. Don't be so sure. Women's Forum magazine came out with the statistics of dangers of sleepovers. Some of those statistics were that many teens report that their first sexual experience occurred at a sleepover or at a late night at a friend's house. Parents often aren't aware of what these teenagers are doing at sleepovers because they're either asleep themselves or they're trying to give the teenagers privacy. First-time drug use for teens often occur at sleepovers or late-night parties. Statistics show that teens are more likely to engage in illegal or illicit behavior in large unsupervised groups. Those activities range from vandalism to sexual assault. Younger children may be victimized at sleepovers. Many victims of child molestation report that their molesters first approached them at a sleepover. The truth is, sleepovers are difficult to regulate and can easily get out of hand. This particular group stated nothing about porn, nothing about the internet. For me, when I was having fun at sleepovers, we didn't have the internet and a handheld device that we could share with others things of curiosity, things that are usually inappropriate. A stake president's daughter told me how her dad said that as he met with young men before their missions, so many of them had been exposed to porn, and that had been at sleepovers. An LDS Family Services counselor told me that they see and treat a lot of missionaries. In those sessions, they learned that missionaries' first exposure to porn and often their first encounter with homosexual experiences happened at sleepovers. These two individuals do not allow sleepovers, and they don't encourage it at all. Unfortunately, we're living in a very different time from 20 years ago. It's a time that requires a different kind of parenting. In the October session of conference, General Conference, Larry R. Lawrence of the 70 labeled this kind of parenting as courageous and spoke specifically on sleepovers and specifically against them. In his talk titled Courageous Parenting, he states, "May I express my personal warning about a practice that is common in many cultures. I'm referring to sleepovers or spending the night at the home of a friend. As a bishop, I discovered that too many youth violated the word of wisdom or the law of chastity for the first time as part of a sleepover. Too often, their first exposure to pornography and even their first encounter with police occurred when they were spending the night away from home. Peer pressure becomes more powerful when children are away from the influence and when their defenses are weakened late at night. If you have ever felt uneasy about an overnight activity, don't be afraid to respond to that warning voice inside. Always be careful when it comes to protecting your precious children." His words echo the statistics I shared and the other priesthood leaders' experiences. This is a general authority that shares some very serious risks that are becoming more and more common at sleepovers. Risks I'm not willing to take with my precious children, and I hope you aren't either. Does taking a stand against potential risk mean that there's no fun in store for your children? Absolutely not. Many parents are coming up with creative alternatives and fun traditions in place of the traditional sleepover. Wendy Green wrote an article titled Reconsidering Sleepovers, and it was published in the LDS Living magazine. It suggested several alternatives to that traditional sleepover. These ideas were implemented in her own family after a state conference talk by her state president. And I quote, she said, "Beware of sleepovers and slumber parties. He explained that many children have drunk their first beer, sworn their first time, or lost their virtue on a night when they did not have to look their parents in the eye when the night was over. He advised us to take comfort in knowing our families were safe under the same roof at the end of each night." Her ideas are this: lateovers. That's when a designated time, maybe between 10 p.m. and midnight, is set, and then you have all the fun of a sleepover before that. You eat the goodies, the junk food, watch the movies, and have the laughter, and then at the appointed time, parents pick up and take their kids home. Kind of the best of both worlds, if you ask me. On the opposite end, there is early overs, where they come over in their pajamas, have a yummy breakfast, and have the whole day to play. Kids love night activities. They like to have their flashlights or play hide and go seek, murder in the dark. That could be a fun alternative. Also, you could gear activities towards the gender. Spa night for the girls, or maybe a video game tournament for the boys. There really are lots of activities, and these kids will have a blast with these ideas. Do they take more effort in planning? Yeah, they do. But a little bit more driving, more planning, maybe a little less sleep, is worth knowing that your children are more safe than the alternative. Elder Lawrence has spoken of the anger and tears that his very own kids had when he would pick them up at 10 p.m. from a sleepover. But those kids, some of them having learned of bad things that happened at those sleepovers, have each thanked him or his wife for that rule. And all 6 of them have implemented similar rules in their homes now that they're parents themselves. Is putting your foot down easy? No. Especially when you have such fond memories of these activities yourself. But from personal experience and the spirit of revelation, I know that it is a necessity that can prevent a lot of temptation and heartache for our children in the long run. I urge you to make this a matter of thought and prayer as you consider how to protect your children when it comes to sleepovers. The time to act is now. The time to be courageous in our parenting is now.